The reality is, from witnesses on the ground, from human rights groups, they say that is simply not true. They say that the evidence of what they have witnessed flies in the face of those Israeli assertions that they are taking all precautions to ensure civilian safety. They say that this is an increasingly explosive situation, and one which risks, in the view of many on the ground, of, yes, further heightening this conflict. I mentioned the initial two fronts. We've been talking about it, right? Gaza, Hezbollah, southern Lebanon, with Iran as their overseers. Right now, the West Bank is becoming very much an operational, active new front in this war, whether it is officially recognized as such.
And just finally, Doug, let's talk briefly about what's happening in Gaza, because there has been some kind of agreement between the World Health Organization and Israel to pause fighting in a number of areas for 3 days, and that to allow a polio vaccination campaign of children to get underway. There are, though, some concerns about it. Will it work, right? The fears for, yes, there has been an agreement reached between the humanitarian officials and Israel. There will be, according to the agreement, 3 phases, of which the first will be in the central Gaza.
WESN.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Always good to see you. Thank you very much for staying with us here at WESN. Well, let's just tell you this. The president describes him as someone who left his mark on the society because of his presence in the business sphere. She said he was a visionary entrepreneur and business magnate who established a business empire that transformed various industries. She said his philanthropic contributions have left a lasting impact on many lives. His efforts to expand the Clico name and brand by forming CL Financial were outstanding. At its peak, CL Financial boasted more than 65 companies across 32 countries with assets exceeding $100 billion US. Robert Lahunt said he fostered the black entrepreneurial spirit. He said he pushed the boundaries and challenged the status quo, inspiring future generations to reach new heights. Well, a newspaper editorial said this about this gentleman. He was someone full of eminence alongside crookedness. His reputation for voraciously grabbing assets to divert revenue streams into other ventures was infamous. It criticized the president's statement about the gentleman, saying that she sits in an office that formally convened a commission of inquiry into the CL Financial Group. These things have been said and written about a man called Lawrence Dupre. He died some days ago at the age of 89. Regarding Lawrence Dupre, that's the discussion we're having in this edition of the program. My guest, business, I would say, advocate himself, and somebody who's working in the area of wealth generation, as they call it, Harvey Boris, a former diplomat and former senator in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
The privilege is truly mine. I'm thankful to be here. I'm happy to have the opportunity to be on your program this morning, and I'm hoping that we can probably shed some light where there is darkness surrounding the life and times of the man they call Lawrence Dupre.
All right, so thank you very much. Any one of these, the statements that I just made that you wanted to pick on as a starting point? He was a visionary entrepreneur and business magnate who established a business empire that transformed various industries.
I would say clearly he was a visionary. And I would take that from the point of view, from the perspective that Mr. Dupre had a vision to take CL Financial to become the largest business empire in the Caribbean and probably in this part of the world. I remember as a diplomat serving in Miami, when he would come to Miami, he would come to my office, meet me. We'll go across to his hotel, or sometimes the driver would take me across to his hotel, and we'll sit and chat about his vision, his dream. And that time he wanted to expand into the Middle East, because he said the Middle East is a new beacon of business. So he wanted to expand in that area. At that point in time also, he was building the Twin Towers in Miami, which was close to my office. My office was 1000 Brickell Avenue, downtown Miami. and the Twin Towers was just a few buildings away. It would have been the tallest buildings in Miami, skyscrapers in Miami. And the construction has started. So the vision of this gentleman far exceeded any that I've seen in our country and in terms of most persons that I've met. And I've known him a long time prior to even, him coming to talk to me as a diplomat.
Yeah, his philanthropic contributions, this is President Garcia talking here, having left a lasting impact on many lives. Can you put a finger on that?
Yes, man. When you talk about lasting impact on many lives, he was single-handedly responsible for the inspiration to many, I want to be very specific here, to many persons of African descent, feeling that he or she can make it, that he or she can enter business, that can achieve economic success. Because of the African community saw him as the beacon of hope in terms of being able to achieve your dream as a business person. Dupré was really second to none in terms of his vision. That economic crash that took place, that's the one thing I thought caught him off guard. Because it's something that he did not, well, most of the world didn't expect, as a matter of fact. And that, I think, if that didn't occur, right now we will be celebrating the greatness of this individual.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back on something I said there. I described the president. I called her President Garcia. I was focusing on her husband, Mr. Kevin Garcia, with this President Christine Kangaloo. She maintains her name from before. But the Guardian editorial took issue with some of what she said, and they said that Mr. Dupré was someone full of eminence alongside crookedness. His reputation for voraciously grabbing assets to divert revenue streams into other ventures was infamous. And they looked at what the president said and then said, well, she sits in an office that formally convened a commission of inquiry into the CL Financial Group, which collapsed, and we know some of what transpired there.
You must understand, sometimes in having a vision, 1 minute always follow the beaten track. He was the kind of individual, because he saw the end result of this action, he may not always use the appropriate approach in terms of even diverting funds from one to the other, and may just do as he feel and in shock to get this done without probably following all the correct protocols. I worked at Clico, by the way. I was trained and I worked at Clico for many years, for a few years. I was trained at Clico's head office by Dr. Dutton, the late Dr. Dutton. And when we did our course there in terms of getting the whole industry, the last day he came, on the last day of our training,
that's Mr. Dupré.
Mr. Dupré came to us and told us, the sky is the limit. Dream big and go there and achieve the goals and achieve the dream. See yourself as you have never seen yourself before, that you can make it to the top because it is within you. And it's only that vision that cause you to achieve your goals.
But do you think he became too aggressive, and some of the decisions he took and the investments he made had a direct impact on the fortunes of Clico? By then it was CL Financial, which so Clico, my understanding of business would have been that it became a sort of holding house, but he was doing other things using that as the foundation and the basis, and he was too aggressive.
I would want to think that is part of the reason, because he, in terms of going into the number of new business ventures that he attempted to go into, he would have extended himself probably beyond, I won't say his liability, but he would have extended himself a little too much at the point in time and too quickly, because he was seeing the end result. if I achieve this goal here, the end result will be this will turn around this, and this will handle this. And probably looking at that from that macro point of view, as the case may be, to understand in business. So he was looking at that. And sometimes also too, let me be very clear here. Sometimes if a government or a leader of a country is in power 20, 30 years, they see themselves as they can literally do anything. Similar in power, in business. When you're so successful, you tend to sometimes feel that you can achieve the goals without really going through some of the barriers that there are. And he extended himself to the point that with the downturn, in the crash in the world, which was in 2008, around that time there. That is something that his liquidity couldn't sustain. And therefore, there was that need for liquid because he had spent so much outside there and doing those things. So I believe, yes, to some extent, he extended himself a little too much, too quickly at that point in time. Because remember, CL Financial came into being, I think it was 1993, as the case may be. And so in 16 years' time, within 16 years, which is to take it to 16 years from 1993, 2003, 16 years to the crash, as the case may be. He built that, turned Clico, Colonial Life, into a mega empire in 16 years. You know, with the start of with the methanol plant, that was the inspiration, as the case may be. When I served in America, I believe at that point in time we were supplying America 75% of certain energy resources and things like that. This gentleman really had a vision. You know, again, the crash, the world crash, the world economy that really wiped out many even larger entities.
Organizations such as that.
Yeah, such as that. You know, he couldn't withstand. But we could have probably dealt with it a little differently, as the case may be, but it is what it is.
It's an interesting point in the history of it, coming from where you know, he was the star, and so on, to what happened, the company itself. He was, remember, there was a period when I think Basim Pandey was Prime Minister, and Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj was part of the government, and something happened between them. And a reporter asking Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj to talk about what transpired with him and the boss. And he said, well, I don't know, but I do pray. Remember that? He was talking about somehow, you know, there was some issue about the image that Lawrence Dupre was carrying at the time. He was all over the place in terms of people's consciousness about this man having emerged and doing what he was doing. The sense that people like that, they get to a point where nobody would contradict them or criticize what they were doing, or if you're the chairman of a board and run a meeting, you get to the point where you don't take cross-examination, as it were, in meetings which you are a part or which you lead. You think that
sometimes that happening in leadership at all levels, both from a political and in business, that type of situation would occur. And I can tell you this, to challenge leaders within the organization in terms of right and wrong, or what you believe to be the correct thing, can put you in the doghouse. I've seen it at first hand in many cases, politically and otherwise. And therefore, a lot of leaders are not big enough to understand this person just speaking their mind, you know, or just bringing forward what they think is in the best interest of the organization. I have come about with the term, I love my country. Everybody know me for that. Why have I started that 30-something years ago? Simply because we must put country over everything else. In other words, we must put what is best for the organization over everything else. And therefore, if you remember Clico, you must put what is the best for Clico over Dupre, over any member of the board, or over my personal ones, because this is in the best interest. And that's the patriotism that you need within an organization, you need within a country, you need within your entire environment. And leaders tend to think, after a point in time, when you become self-empowered, because you feel that you know it all, and you are able to achieve. It's something that is, you see, power could corrupt. You know, I'm not saying he was corrupted,
Right,
But I say power
yeah,
could corrupt in terms of you feeling that you know it and have the answers. I don't feel he had reached that point though, because I remember in 2000, was it 8 or 7, 2008, 7, 09, around that time, I was a director of Eastern Credit Union.
Yeah.
And our investment had matured, and he wanted us to reinvest. I think the person who had the thing with us was just former top agent with Clico. And Mr. Dupré, the president, CEO of Clico and CL, came personally to Eastern Credit Union's boardroom to make a presentation to us as to why we ought to continue with the investment, as the case may be. You know, so therefore I'm saying he still had that human touch where he wasn't too big to go and negotiate, to come to a much smaller organization as Eastern Credit Union and come to negotiate and come to discuss a situation in the best interest of Clico.
Yeah, Robert Lehunt, who's a Trinidad and Tobago, San Fernando boy who became an eminent and prominent banker in the region, and then came back and was a minister for a while in PNM government just in the last 1 or 2 episodes. Now works for the IMF. He says that Dupré tried to encourage and tried to develop the black entrepreneurial spirit.
There was no two ways about that. Whether he did it directly or indirectly, he was seen, Clico was seen as the beaming light for Africans in respect of being able to do business. Remember, there's the perception by some that African cannot do business and that we are only consumers. Clico, started by Cyril Dupré, his uncle, was that beacon of hope, the greatest beacon of hope, that yes, we can do business. And when he formed Clico Financial, CL Financial, sorry, and it became probably the largest entity in Trinidad and Tobago. It means it showed that an African organization, meaning an organization started by African people, not the organization only have Africans as the case may be, but started by an African person, can go to the pinnacle of success. And that was the inspiration that persons got out of it. And he spoke it. He said, you can make it. Remember when I told you when we were training at Clico's head office on St. Vincent Street? He came and said that you can make it. He spoke to us directly and individually. Dr. Dutton was there, and he spoke to us and told us, listen, you can make it. Be who you want to be. See yourself at the top. See yourself with great success. That motivation is one of the things that stuck with me over the years. And
who's the poet who created this piece called Icarus, this character called Icarus, and they
that's a Greek,
right, Greek mythology stuff, and they said that he was a victim of that because he flew too close to the sun, so he got burned.
And there are those who would have that feel because there was some concerns within the community that he was going a little too far. Let me be very candid here, Mr. Johnson. When he took over, when we got the majority shareholding of Republic Bank, there's some who felt that that black company should not have that type. That's a reality. A black company should not have that kind of control. You know what I'm saying? And there were those who would have done, allegedly, anything to remove that power that was enshrined and given in CL Financial.
Yeah, but you think by his actions and some of the decisions he would have made, he played into those kinds of hands, and then it ended up as it was?
To some extent, that would be correct. I remember Mr. Dupré coming home by us and asking my brother and I, well, my brother in particular, to control his private business properties. He was that busy. And he asked, and we were handling some of the properties that he owned personally, Third Avenue in Maraval, different properties that he owned. We were looking after them, making sure, because he just didn't have the time to deal with those things. And sometimes when you become so successful, you tend to either see persons as your friends who are not, and sometimes persons who are your enemies who are really not, right? Because a person who tell you point blank, you're doing this the wrong, you might see them as an enemy, and they really might be your best friend, trying to keep you on the track. And a person might be telling you, listen, let's go and conquer the world, because they want to lick a certain part of your anatomy. You know what I'm saying? May be your worst enemy. On that basis, I would conclude by saying, Mr. Dupré had some friends around him I felt probably were not really his friends. And there are many who felt that the organization, which really represented an African organization, in the minds of people, as the case may be, had gone too far. And that control shouldn't be there, especially Republic Bank, which was not seen. Republic Bank was always seen as a bank really associated with others, as the case might be.
Yeah, it started as Barclays and then became...
Republic Bank. So you understand, and Barclays, was highly tied to slavery, and that whole white dominance, as the case, so therefore you understand the perception, and I'm saying this fearlessly, the perception out there, whether right or wrong, but this company, and he in his person was seen as that light, that we can do it, as the case may be.
Just as an aside on the Barclays, one thing I gave the management at the time credit for was in the early 1970s. That was the first bank where workers became unionized. Mm-hmm. It was the Bank Workers Union. It came out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But come back to him. Again, some interesting developments that... so there was this commission of inquiry into what had happened with Clico, CL Financial, and so on. In the reporting since he died, it came out that there was a report that went to the DPP, and then the DPP sent it to the Prime Minister with some advice not to make it public.
I remember reading that, and I honestly wondered what that could have been. Could it be detrimental? Because a government have a level of responsibility. I'm not sure the DPP have that responsibility. Government have a level of responsibility in terms of ensuring that you keep the economy strong, and therefore sometimes a government have to look at the financial situations, and if this released to the general public, if it could damage or hurt, but some things that occurred caused a run on Clico. Right, some of the statements that were made caused a run on Clico, and therefore, or CL Financial to some extent, and therefore, with persons withdrawing, it caused a situation to get even worse at the point in time.
So it may not necessarily have been any attempt to sort of breaks for him. It is to look at what the overall sort of repercussions and implications of what
represented a tremendous part of our GDP. Clico, CL Financial. Represented that, and therefore one would have to be very concerned, in terms of certain information, if it can be harmful to the population. And as you know, my thesis, my whole thing is country first, and therefore once in the basis that is in the best interest of the country, one have to be very particular in respect to something of that nature. Of course, though the public should be entitled to all information that need, as the case with public information. But if it will be harmful and greater detriment to the society or to the country, I think it should be given due consideration.
Yeah, I'm trying to throw my mind back to the last time I would have seen him. There was an event at the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union Hall. I think Pandey was speaking with some event that somebody had organized, and he came in midway through the proceedings. First time I'd seen him without jacket and tie, and so there's a shirt without a tie, and he looked different. And my friend, I have a colleague who look at people like that and say, you know them in one way and you see them this way now, and they look diminished. And he had that, that look about him. It's not the person, not the imagery that one had about him prior to that.
It is really of tremendous concern in terms of how he fell from grace. And when you reach that pinnacle in your development, in your career, in your business, with your business empire, to be reduced to the point where court matter after court matter, you were found liable. And where you know you're owing literally allegedly hundreds of millions of dollars, that you don't know where that money will be coming from. It is, I'm talking about the present, or well, the recent past. It is something that could crush any human being in terms of your desire or your will to live. It is a sad thing, because I've seen persons in this country who have gotten their monies owed to the government and to certain banks written off, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that he was afforded any similar privilege or benefit. And the majority of persons who got things, written off may not have necessarily, I'm on public television, may not have necessarily looked like him, as the case may be. So therefore, there's a lot to be considered when you look at this particular situation that occurred and the fact that he is now deceased. And again, my condolences to his family, his friends, his wife, his son, But the fact is, Dupree was truly a trailblazer. I mean, he must be given that, though his business collapsed, or the liquidity dried up based on the crash, the world crash, economic crash. If it wasn't for that, I believe he would have been one of the greatest heroes of our times.
The part of this editorial which said that he was someone full of eminence alongside crookedness. You think that may be a little too harsh? I mean,
well, the thing is,
was he crooked, or were his judgments just not consistent?
I don't think he followed all the rules, based on my information, allegedly so. I don't think he followed all the rules per se, but I'm not sure if I could. There was a thing with I think it was with Mr. Pandey, and that he had given some funds, and Mr. Pandey had said that in the Indian community, the wife handles the funds, and something with some school thing and payment things like that. He's the person who, if he's in support of you, he would help you generously. I've heard and seen of things like that in the past, and whether he would do it for all to see, or done in a private manner, I'm not sure if that will be seen as corrupt, but I have not heard of specific, I'm not saying there isn't, but I have not heard of specific areas where he have been involved in serious corruption.
Where he would have been deliberately crooked for one reason or the other. You've not heard any story like that?
I've not heard of that, where it was and again, in the business world, things happen that sometimes ought not to happen, and things occur and that ought not to occur. But I'm saying this to you, Mr. Johnson. I've not heard of things of that nature. I look at my own life as a little grassroots from San Juan, right? I look at my own life. I've been able to achieve a few things in life, but by the grace of God, I don't know if it's because I grew up a Seventh Adventist, I still maintain some of the principles. I have never taken a bribe, nor given a bribe, as the case may be. I've never sold drugs, nor taken drugs. So I was able to, and I've never really got no government contract per se. Say I got eased up through the government, got some big contract. So my family on its own, following probably the wisdom of one of my bigger brothers or elder brothers, we used that, and we were able to transform our own situation.
So even though you have played, sort of euphemistically speaking, so close to the centers of power, in P&M administrations, you never benefited personally or family-wise from that?
No, never. We have never, apart from my function as an officer, in terms of whatever elected position or appointed position I may have held, in terms of getting some contract that has never happened per se. I came from a family. We work hard. We invested in land in the early days.
So you're able to sleep better in the night?
By the grace of God, because there's no one. I mean, persons will still dislike you, resent you, or hate you, whatever. And some will dislike you because you're African. Some will hate you because they think you're a PNM. Some will hate you because who is he? Who you think he is? And some of the most hatred or negatives come from your own people, because there's something that's happening that I wish I could find the solution to why. Within the African community, we tend to not to want to see each other go forward. Andy, I started cleaning crazy from the age of 17. I used to be covered by a guy called Robley from TDT. He was a cameraman. He was originally from Tobago, but he was a news reporter for TDT.
Robley, my great friend and colleague.
Yes, wonderful person. He died when an accident in Maraval, but his car crashed. As he came to me, again, my condolences. He would come and cover us. In the crazy clinic, I would have 50 young people with myself cleaning crazy. Why have I? This is my life. I believe. Right now, I'm doing a project of trying to beautify Cascade, Woodbrook. I'm painting the benches where some people find faults, and they do nothing better. But I just trying to motivate us that we, apart from the government, we can all make a difference. And the program is called "I Love My Street," and that's beginning to make the point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Wherever you live, you can do something to improve. And improving one street, you improve your community. Improving the community, improve the country. Our motto is beautifying and improving Trinidad and Tobago one street at a time.
One street at a time.
And therefore, on that basis, I'm saying you can get into any office. You don't have to be corrupt. You don't have to go there to thief. Yes, you didn't go there to get rich. As the case may be, you don't have to go in according to Jack Warner, where you can afford a solo and a doubles instead. No,
Yeah.
So,
all right. I'm afraid we have to wrap it up. But just quickly, are you yearning for the image and the reputation of Lawrence Dupre to be properly presented, and that he should be regarded for what you consider him to be more than having
great entrepreneur, a person with vision. And the point of it long term, his focus was on the Middle East, where he saw
what was taking place there, what was going to take place there, and which is what is in the case now.
We sat in Miami at his hotel in the lobby area, where we would sit for literally hours and spoke. As he came to me, and his vision was really to take us to a next level. He said, "Listen, we will be on the U.S. stock exchange." This guy had a vision, and hopefully, by the grace of God, we will ensure that the history would show him and present him as truly a national visionary for Trinidad and Tobago.
Avi Boris, thank you very much. That's been our discussion, our program for this edition. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
WESN. Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
neighbors work together with our F-16s and together with our air defense.
But Ukraine's allies, including EU countries currently holding talks on the situation, want to avoid any type of escalation with Russia. And even if they were to deliver on all of their promises, Russia would still have 10 times more firepower than its rival.
Now, in a little over 100 days, the Notre Dame is slated to reopen after the devastating fire of 2019. For our last report, we take a look at efforts to get the Paris Cathedral ready in time for Christmas.
Notre Dame will reopen in December, but no need to get ropes to get inside. Registering on a visitor's site is the only condition to be met. Those who have seen it say the cathedral has not been this beautiful in centuries. Every detail was restored in the original way, including the angels whose golden wings broke when they dropped in the fire.
C'est très fort, hein, symboliquement.
All these are powerful symbols for Catholics, Christians, and all those who love the cathedral. Seeing the vault back in its original shape is incredible.
C'est vraiment un grand moment.
After the fire, workers started with safety phases, preventing further damage and rebuilding the main structure. In recent months, restoration work entered its final phases. These flower-shaped decorations designed in the 19th century were put back in place.
They weigh about 270 kilos.
For those too impatient to wait for the official opening, there will be some sneak peeks on the European Heritage Days, from the 20th to the 22nd of September.
And that's it from me this hour. Thanks for watching.
From the atrocities of the war in Gaza to life on the front line in Ukraine, the Visa pour l'Image Photo Festival in Perpignan brings us the arresting pictures that make the front page, as well as the documentary stories that reveal unknown worlds and unreported lives. In its 36th edition, the gathering has become the go-to event for photojournalism, and one of the exhibitions showing at the festival this year is called The Screen Generation by Jérôme Jans. Let's take a look. Well, Jérôme joins us in the studio. Hi, Jérôme. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Now, the subject of this prize-winning series is screen time, something we're all quite familiar with, but I learned through the text accompanying this exhibition that French teenagers now spend 36 hours a week on average in front of screens, which is incredible. Why did you choose to document this phenomenon?
Actually, as a photojournalist, I've been documenting the virtual world for 4 years now. And, you know, I travel all over the world and observing people, what they do in the street, at their home. I'm lucky enough to be invited in many, many places. And, you know, I ask myself, what about the future with the new technologies? And when you ask this kind of question, you come up with the kids, you know. So also because of my age, I'm turned 40 and I have 2 babies. So as a parent, you know, I ask myself, what is the impact of the new technologies for the kids?
Well, the effects of screen time are now starting to be discussed by medical professionals. Of course, there are some major concerns when it comes to the psychological well-being of young people. One of your images shows some of that concern, some of those emotions. Can you explain what's happening in this photo in particular?
Yeah, it was at the 3018 call center. It's a French national call center which help the kids who are in danger, I would say. They are cyber erased.
So cyberbullying,
yes, they have to deal with webcam blackmail. And so it's really, really tough job for the psychologists who work there, because they have to, just with their voice, you know, they have to help those kids who sometimes want just to kill themselves. So as a photographer, I had to find a way to illustrate and the emotion of the voice. And so that's the reason I spent couple of evenings with them, because many media came to, it's a trendy topic, you know, many media came to interview them during daytime, but no one came at nighttime, which I think it's the worst case for the kids, you know, dealing with the devices. So I spent time with them and using photography to capture this emotion.
Absolutely.
With the voice.
How they're feeling, indeed. Well, while social media was arguably developed to connect human beings, as young people spend more time in front of screens, they often report feeling lonely. Why do you think these digital connections don't seem to be making us feel so connected emotionally or socially?
Yeah, through my story, I realized after all that I've been documenting loneliness for 4 years now by photographing those people. I mean, we are trying to connect the world together, but to me it's really strange because most of the time we don't even know the name of our neighbor. And so to tell you how the challenge is so huge for the humanity, and the question for kids is what we want to give to them. And do we want to put them in a sleeping mode? You know, nowadays you don't see any kids in the street anymore. You know, I was born in an island. We used to play outside. You know, we used to be careful with the car and stuff, to take risk actually, and that's the question we have to deal with now. I think.
The virtual world has become the playground.
Exactly, but is that so safe as we pretend? I don't think so, by photographing those people.
Yeah, it's all very new still. Well, as our existences become increasingly mediated by screens at work or at play, artificial intelligence is also becoming a huge factor in what we see on those screens. AI-generated art is nothing new, but it's getting sophisticated enough to trick us into thinking it was made by humans. Olivia Bizot and Jennifer Ben-Rahim have this report.
You wouldn't know it, but this photo portrait was made using artificial intelligence. It won the first prize in a prestigious Sony competition.
I was surprised that I won. I was also surprised that after I told the awards that it's AI generated and suggested that we need to have a discussion about this, and that AI generated images should not compete with photography in the same category, that this suggestion by mine was just not responded to.
Boris Eldrickson refused the award, saying he only entered a photo to speed up the debate about the use of AI in the industry. Today, just about anyone can create art from scratch by simply typing a few words on a computer. But can that be considered art? Is AI threatening the livelihoods of artists? And is the technology being used to steal their art? Carlo Ortiz, an illustrator based in San Francisco, sued the company Stability AI for using her work without getting proper copy, credit, or consent.
I'm starting to see AI encroach in my industry. I have heard many reports from artists around the world that they've lost commissions over this. It's happening rapidly.
While many artists see AI as competition, others see it as a tool. Last year, Japan's first AI-drawn manga hit the shelves. The author, who goes by the name of Rootport and who's hiding his identity behind an avatar, admits he turned to AI because he had absolutely zero drawing talent.
I can say AI drawing is far faster than hand drawing. While a full color illustration takes an artist 1 full day, no matter how fast the person draws, this tool finishes in a minute or so. I think this is a clear advantage.
From mangas to photography to music, AI is taking over. Many, like Constant Brinkman, are even betting on it. He opened the world's very first AI gallery in Amsterdam.
This is not going away. The genie is out of the bottle. It's here to stay.
So, Jérôme, there we saw an artist whose work has been more or less stolen, Boris Eldagsen, who wanted a debate about AI. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about your own work being fed into the machine?
It's a difficult question, but to me, I prefer to give priority to the normal thing that I feel as human being. What I love about my job as photojournalist is when I go somewhere, you know, to meet people, I never know who I'm going to meet. When I'm here with you now in English, I have to speak with you, and I'm scared to not find my words. You know, this is mystery of life, and I don't want to live in a world that everything can be possible. You know, I want to keep, and that's the thing also with the kids. I think today we should talk more about dreams, about to wait something and to deal with the risk that we're not going to find what we want to find. And yeah, that's the thing I prefer to.
Yeah, a world where not everything can be calculated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, going much to more concrete, real-life subject matter that you photographed, in fact, I believe your first real photojournalistic project was in the Himalayas. Tell us about that journey and what you took away from it.
Yeah, it was just before my 30. You know, I was born on Réunion Island, and at that time I dreamed about the Himalayas. You know, some lecturer came to my school, and we didn't have internet, of course, at that time. And when I was 18, I moved to Paris. I became a data analyst. And then I had a comfortable life and like wonderful life in Paris, but I decided to give priority to that dream. And I felt bored, let's be honest. And so I decided to do the journey by land to the Himalaya. I arrived 2 days before the earthquake. 9,000 people died. And I stayed in Nepal. And in this KO, I met Eric Valli, who is a really famous National Geographic photographer. And he advised me to tell story. He said to me that photographing people, it's not enough. You have to give a voice to them. And that's the most beautiful thing about my job is I don't photograph people because they are beautiful. I photograph them because they have something to tell to me. And as a data analyst, I say, what kind of topic I should talk about? There are many photographers, talented photographers, photograph war, environment issues, and I will never thought that it's gonna dive me into this virtual world through Japan, Korea, China, the US, and Europe now with the screen generation.
But most of all, it was a story of connection, ironically, through the screen of your digital camera. Jérôme, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll leave you with some more imagery from the dozens of exhibitions on show at Visa pour l'Image, with photos that take us from the US-Mexico border to Ethiopia via the pro-democracy demos in Iran. That festival runs until September 15th in Perpignan. Otherwise, do join us next time on Arts24 for more arts and culture, and on our social media too.
They observe. They contact us. They report, film, photograph. They are the voice of the voiceless. Your eyes in the far-flung reaches of the world. The Observers, a network of 5,000 committed citizens working with France 24.
One of our observers in Côte d'Ivoire.
Amateur footage and testimonials checked by our journalists and broadcast weekly on The Observers, on France 24 and observers.france24.com.
I'm Rochelle Harrison-Pless in Sydney. Whether it's an environmental story, business feature or breaking news, I report on the stories that matter from across Australia and New Zealand here on France 24.
Rochelle Harrison-Pless, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
WESN.
Hello, Trinidad Tobago. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and I am running out of things to wear on the show. And welcome to Breakthrough. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Hello, Sean.
Now that you said it, Mark, if there was no